Hello, I'm Erin Marcus, founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business, and I want to welcome you to Ready Yet? If all you needed was a step-by-step plan of what to do, you could buy a book on how to succeed and you would be all set. But here's the rub. You'll never do what it takes until you become the person it takes to do it. The Ready Yet podcast is dedicated to those who are ready to become the person who succeeds, ready to become the person who steps into more, and ready to become the best version of themselves. In the I'm Ready interview series, join me for inspiring conversations with people who figured out who they needed to be in order to achieve their dreams, and were brave enough to be that person. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Ready Yet podcast, where I get to have a great time talking to people who have accomplished all sorts of things and help, through that discussion, help everybody learn what it took to get them to where they are. So I had a laugh this morning because I was remembering a conversation we had when I first met today's guest, Scott Nicholson, because I don't know who was with us, but we were at a networking event at Inner Circle, one of their full day events, and it was the after party. We were sitting there having a drink, and we got into this conversation about my nerdy animal knowledge and the fact that predators' eyes are in the front of their heads and a prey's eyes are in the side of their heads. And you looked at me like I had 3 heads. And I just don't know why I remembered that this morning as I was getting ready to chat with you. But that's a bit where our relationship started.
Yes, sure is.
So why don't you give everyone a more official introduction of who you are and what you do, as opposed to, I don't know why that sticks out, but there we are.
I'm trying to figure out how my eyes are positioned.
Compared to mine, right?
Anyway, well, thank you, Erin. Thank you for having me today. Really appreciate this. Scott Nicholson. I'm the owner, partner of multiple brands today. You know, my journey really kind of started in sales years ago. And I had about a 30-year career in the collections, customer service, BPO space, where I learned a great deal from a sales and just growth and managing growth perspective. I exited my career as president and chief operating officer of a very large firm. We had over 1,000 seats. Went through an acquisition, which taught me a lot, dealt with private equity, which taught me a lot more.
Right.
And also taught me that, hey, you know what? I'd love to control my own destiny at some point. So the parachute was a really great event in that regard. And through that process, what I really determined is I wanted to create a series of companies that were really meaningful and really revolved around my family and the ability for our adult children to find paths that we could support, help own and operate along that journey. So today, we're the proud founders of KO Business Solutions, which is a workforce management company, labor resource provider. We do everything from temp to perm staffing, recruiting, high volume based. A lot of it's focused on the call center, experience from prior life. But we do, assemble project teams to go in and help companies. We have our own call center that helps manage customer interactions. We typically work with our clients and augment how they work. So when they have high seasonality, as an example, we'll absorb that. And the final piece within KO is robotic process automation. Kind of learned through time that the ability to automate process and take out very redundant, low value work away from humans, digitize it, and allow the humans to then do more value related work, you're going to get better outcomes along the way. And so that's what RPA does. And so we added that to our suite of services this year. So from KO's perspective, really trying to cover the gamut of the workforce. Jurassic Junk was a new endeavor that we started about 2.5 months ago. Totally different space, junk removal, working both on a residential side as well as the commercial. And it's exactly what you think it is. It's the disposal of personal items from a home. We go in, we can pick and move, and as well as helping in decommissioning of offices, and as companies reconfigure, upgrade, downgrade, it's a really good opportunity there. I also own or I'm a part owner in an HR advisory firm down in the Indianapolis market. We do quite a bit in leadership development and compliance-based work from that organization as well.
So now, yeah. So which like brings me to like 85 questions. Where to start? So
yeah.
one of the things that I highly advise my clients around, and I think your background is just different, which allowed you to successfully do this. You can't chase two bunnies, right? You can't cross two bridges at once. You can't ride two horses with one ass. It's like there's only so many things you can do at once. But one of the things that your story tells is if you focus on one and build it, you can add to it. Like you didn't sell off what you had and switch gears to do the next thing. You just accumulated more things and the teams to run it.
Absolutely. It's a kind of a divide and conquer type of mentality in some respects. And, there's critical points in there where you can determine, okay, stability has been met. Now it's time to look at that next endeavor. We were intentional coming into this with my adult children. I've had the benefit of working with them in the past. And so the whole concept was with Brianna as an example at KO Business Solutions, the genesis of KO came a lot from her. And, it was hers to own and operate at some point. And we made that decision to vest great control to her here in the course of this past year because we got to that point. Jurassic Junk is a business model that was really designed around my son's aspirations and interest, and looking at it from a business perspective, not necessarily what it is, but the ability to manage an area and monetize it and work it that way. So
it's so true because there is a certain point where you have to put your full focus into achieving what's right in front of you. And I think the difference between what you've done and where people fall apart is you did intentional focus with data, until we reach stabilization. It was all business decisions, as opposed to when I watch some people try something once, it didn't work, so I'm going to go over here, and that didn't work, and that worked a little, but then I'm going to try something. Those are more emotional decisions,
right.
Without the data to support it.
Well, even take like the Jurassic Junk example, that came across our desk in October of 2020. We didn't open the doors until June of 2021. And in that time period, it was exploration and understanding and, an opportunity, quite frankly, because it was a very robust opportunity as far as the market share that we can actually manage. So that helped propel that decision. But there was a lot of analysis that went into that to determine it was the right thing to do.
And what I see all the time, and this is why I think I've been successful, because I, like you, had the business background. I had the business background so that most of my decisions, my bigger decisions, I look at the ROI, the return on the investment. I look at how long it's going to take. I look at what's out there. And too many times I watch people not do the work that should come before their work.
Right.
They don't do the analysis. They don't do the planning.
I looked at the title, right? Are you ready yet? Or ready yet? In the planning is the aspect that gets you ready. I think you can't be afraid to meet it head on at some point, but you've got to be prepared as well, because there's a lot of unknowns that still come along the way. But
right, make the plan, but don't be married to the plan.
Yeah, 100%. There is one other element too, because with everything, it all revolves around sales. I have the benefit. My daughter Shannon is starting her own marketing practice, and she supports laterally all the organizations endeavors that I have too. So it kind of takes some of that out of the equation, right? So the ability to manage multiple endeavors, but you have shared resources and common resources that all intersect with the different businesses, and that makes a big difference.
And the other thing you're talking about is put the people where they work the best. Like, what's Shannon? If Shannon's genius zone is XYZ, that's what she'd be focusing on.
100%.
Instead of, and like we were talking earlier, there was a lot of phases of business where you're kind of bootstrapping it all together, and you're in a bit of a do-it-yourself mode. But my opinion, the faster you can get out of doing things that you shouldn't be doing in your business, the faster you'll grow.
Yeah. 100%. That's my personal challenge sometimes, because I do get actively involved in each business, and I have to learn to kind of, pull back, and let you have a structure in place to help drive that and move it forward. Those habits have to subside at some level. So.
Well, and you have the addition, and this is one of the things I was interested in getting your opinion about, because you also have the addition where a lot of your key people are your family and your children, which is just a different dynamic than even if they were just family. And I was thinking that while it's not exactly the same, a lot of solopreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs, when they start to need help, they do tap into their family and friends. So I'm curious what you've learned about leadership with family that is helpful, because again, and my last corporate job when I started with them was a family run business. It was a husband and wife and their son that was running the business. And we grew into a huge company where those people were still involved, but it was no longer being run, quote unquote, as a family. But those solopreneurs who hire their friends, it's not terribly dissimilar than a familial relationship.
No, that's very true.
And leadership can start to get tricky.
Yeah.
Because I know your kids, so I know what you're doing wrong, right?
They're not afraid to tell you.
They are not afraid to tell you. They're not afraid to tell you, which is even more important.
But no, which is actually probably a good thing.
What insights have you found because of your background, because of the growth, even when you had a job, from a leadership perspective, as you're building a team that would help people be able to move forward and have that work for them instead of against them?
Yeah, I think, and look, I'm not perfect at it yet, but it's something that I framed everything around is manage like a boss, lead like a father, lead like a friend. Because there's core elements to that. As a boss, you have to have a lot of clarity, you have to have a lot of purpose, a lot of very well-defined objectives. But as a leader, part of what you need to do is serve, teach, coach, right? So that's all very important. So I'm really trying to frame that type of philosophy here, and we've done that in the past. To your point, we hire friends and other family members, and it's difficult. And I think the thing that we've learned along the way is, one, be very careful in doing that, and make sure it's the right people and that they understand where those boundaries exist. And that's where the clarity aspect of things come in.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. I know I really enjoy having conversations about who you need to be in order to reach new heights. As founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business, I work with my clients at the intersection where what they need to do to succeed meets who they need to be to do it. If you would like to have a conversation about your business, please reach out to me at erin@conqueryourbusiness.com. I think that's so important, that clarity. So number one goes back to the planning. If you didn't do the planning, you're not going to have the clarity that creates a safer, more likely successful hire with a friend or family member. And also, because I used to teach communications, I still have that as a big part of what I do with folks. Everybody goes into a situation with their own experiences, their own knowledge, their own interpretation, which means when you say things, I might come up with a completely different scenario in my head of what you actually mean. And if you don't have the clarity, that's where friendships get ruined.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that's why you have to be extraordinarily careful hiring friends, especially because, and even in families, because I've seen family-based businesses implode because of just the deterioration of that relationship. So there has to be extreme confidence in the strength of that relationship. But boundaries and clarity with friends are extremely important. And
I think the intention of a hire is to grow a business, not to save a person you like.
Yep, 100%. And it's gotten burned in the past on that. And we've also had some of our greatest rewards because of it, because those are people that you would think you can inherently trust. And when it works well, you get dedication and devotion that you might not necessarily get from other resources. So there is huge benefit to it. It just has to be managed the right way.
So I know in your personal case, grandkids help, but how do you keep then? Because I've had clients and friends who are husband and wife entrepreneur teams lose their relationship. Kids kind of force that out of you because they're going to be the priority. And I know with grandkids, like when you're with the grandkids, I doubt you're talking about business, but how do you prevent the business from becoming the entire relationship?
Separate time and space is probably my answer to that. Even back in the day, in my prior career, we all worked together at some level. I mean, the kids kind of started their work careers there, went on and did different things, but you get together at a family dinner, and what kind of became natural is everybody's dumping the day's garbage on the table.
Right.
And we recognized pretty quickly that we had to create that separation, and that's pretty much carried over to today. It's hard because it does seep in,
Especially if there is an urgent matter and you're
well, yeah, you have to, yeah, and you'll need to discuss it and address it. But we're pretty good about that separation, and our family time is our,
the boundaries
yeah.
that you mentioned.
You just have to be really careful about it. I mean, I told a story just the other day. Brianna and I had a nice little dust up on, I want to say it was Monday. And then right after that, we had to roll into a family dinner. My parents were in town visiting and everything else. And we're sitting at the table joking and laughing about it because you just have to leave it where it is and, enjoy that particular moment. So I think that's critically important, because if you don't, it will consume you.
Absolutely.
And that's tough.
And I think a lot, I know with me in particular, as an example, not just hiring people I've long been associated with, but a lot of my people who work with me for me become friends. And you can start like not having the right boundaries, the right clarity around the relationships.
Yeah,
like you don't get to, I can only imagine, like, and I know your kids again, so it's probably been a long time since this has been an issue. Like, you don't always get to be in charge. Like, I know you're the dad and the boss, but I highly doubt they're letting you always be in charge. So
well, they tell me all the time I'm not. You kidding me? We'll pretend you are. That's okay. That's great.
Let's go back 5 years, 7 years before they were as powerful individuals as they are now. And creating, it's probably just an evolution of the relationship.
Yeah, it is. And so we talk a lot. So I think that helps us a great deal. So not afraid to meet whatever those issues are head on and discuss them. And I think that's helped a lot. It's helped give confidence of a voice in addressing, hey, you didn't help me here. Here's the reason why. Or you're not helping me here. And so you better step it up. Those kinds of things. So.
Well, and I think underlying some of the things you said before, manage like a boss, but lead like a father, it goes back to the intention. And if your underlying intention, I say this for people, whether you're dealing with team members, whether you're dealing with clients, whether you're dealing with prospects, if your intention is always to build others up, you kind of can't go wrong.
Right.
If your intention is to control people because you're freaked out about something and you want XYZ to absolutely happen, you're going to run into a problem.
Yeah. I think that, the one thing I'm really proud of all of us is that the thing that I learned after getting knocked around a little bit early in my career, you get a lead from a place of humility. And then that starts to drive that servant leadership mentality. And I think, to your point, you can't go wrong with that, right? As you're building something, as you would bring employees in, when they sense that, yeah, some people don't respond to it, but they're going to fall off. And the people that do respond to it, that's the culture you create. That's the people that want to work and will stick. And this day and age, especially with all the ebbs and flows and uncertainty, that's really important.
Well, and it just kind of leads me to the next. So I was really interested in your take on that whole leadership, but it also leads me to the next thing that I think you do well, because this is like yours and my relationship. That same approach is how I interpret you approaching the networking relationship. You and I have stayed in contact. I don't know, it's almost 2.5 years. I don't even know.
Yeah.
And it's just that regular touch point of how are you doing and how can I help you? And I don't know that we're in the types of businesses that I'll be your client and you'll be my client. But there's so many ways to help each other, to support each other. And it's just, hey, checking on you, what's going on, being excited for the other person's accomplishment. Here's an idea. And in networking, I also see where too many people want to shortcut it. They think, and it's not that they don't want to have good relationships, but they think they have this erroneous definition of a networking relationship means within a minute of me meeting you, you either refer somebody to me or you become my client.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting. Because I feel like, so first of all, for me, that transactional approach never works, ever. And so I'll use you and I as an example. I think we've developed a friendship out of the process of just getting to know each other. And, the thing that ties us together from a friendship perspective is we love ideas and we love casting visions and we get all excited about it. And there's so much energy in there. And, we can talk about our shared experiences. And then from that, typically I come out with a bunch of ideas, right?
I always know if I'm going to chat with Scott, don't make 20 minutes, don't have something right afterwards, and make sure I have pen and paper. Because you just come up with, listening to you talk about your ideas helped me come up with my ideas, and then you answer things, and that relationship, I think people underestimate the value of those relationships.
Exactly, because ultimately that leads to us stewarding each other to maybe the right endpoint, which could be a client, or just, hey, that idea is almost as valuable as that client because it becomes something that you can take to market.
Becomes 5 clients, right?
Right, exactly. So to me, that's kind of the essence of networking. And what the pandemic introduced to me is one, the people that I forged those relationships with prior to that, we had an ability to really still maintain meaningful conversations all throughout. How you surviving this? Have you tried this? Have you looked at that? Hey, there's this opportunity over here. So we became resources for each other in that respect, right? And then, just the ability to find people in other walks of life through this, where you have similar types of ideas and synergies that ultimately tie you together. And that's always been my personal approach. I would much rather become a resource for people, because I know at the end of the day, that's providing great value, and something will come back along the way, whether it is the idea, whether it's business, whatever it is, or just a place to dump garbage every once in a while.
Don't ever underestimate the value of needing to do that to someone who's not going to judge you.
Exactly.
Or truthfully, let you go too far down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you and I were chatting and that was happening, I'm like, all right, your 8 minutes are up, Scott. Get it
Time's up, right? Yeah, let's get that. Yeah, right. Without a doubt. So
if people want to continue these conversations with you, whether it's personal, whether it's business, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Well, yeah, that's a great question.
There's only like 7 different. We know you're not hiding. They can find you through me.
Yeah. I think the easiest way. So one, LinkedIn is a great tool, right? For that very reason, and that's how I use it. Is to establish initial connections and get kind of in that process. My access to my email. So I have 4 different emails, so I don't know which one to give, but I could share that.
Which one? Here, give me the email with the loosest junk mail spam system on it, where things will actually get through to you.
Yeah, that's great. So I'll give you the one that has probably the least amount of traffic. So therefore,
so you'll stand out. You'll stand out when you show up.
So that's the Jurassic Junk email, and it's snicholson@jurassicjunkcl.com.
Perfect. S. Nicholson at jurassicjunkcl.com.
.com. Yep, 100%. That'd be a great way to start. And then from there, it's great to just be able to leverage conversations because that's what I love.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me. This has been amazing. I was excited to get your input on that whole leadership side of things because I think that's something that you guys really do well, and that helps a lot of people.
I appreciate it, Erin. Thank you. I always enjoy our conversations.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Ready Yet podcast. I get so motivated by the amazing accomplishments of the remarkable people I meet, and I'm excited to be able to share some of their stories with you. You can find more episodes of Ready Yet at your favorite source for podcasts or at conqueryourbusiness.com. And if you've already decided that you are ready to become the person you need to be to achieve your big goals, feel free to reach out to find out how I can support you in your efforts. Or check out the Work with Erin page on the Conquer Your Business website. I also invite you to share this podcast with anyone you know who loves to learn and be inspired. And if you're so inclined, I'd be absolutely grateful for any reviews you'd like to share as well. Thanks again for joining me. This has been Erin Marcus, hopefully inspiring and helping you to go conquer your big dreams.